Hello and welcome to Right Sports Talk. My name is Zach. We officially made it through 12 weeks of the NFL season. In week 12, I went 11-3 with my predictions, giving me an overall record of 115-62. We're now on to week 13 of the NFL season. What's special about week 13 is that you get Thanksgiving games. So, going to week 13, I just want to say happy Thanksgiving to anybody that celebrates. But best thing about Thanksgiving games is you get the three F's for football. You get family, food, and football. Big three F's in the world. So, your Thanksgiving games kick off obviously Thursday afternoon as the Green Bay Packers, who are 7-3-1, take on the Detroit Lions, who are 7-4. The Green Bay Packers coming off a victory over the Minnesota Vikings, in which they were pretty dominant for that entire game. The Detroit Lions coming off of an overtime close victory over the New York Giants. Both these teams are playing very well. For the Lions, Jahmyr Gibbs has been playing out of his mind the past few weeks. Played great against the Giants. Well, the rest of their team kind of struggled. Jahmyr Gibbs has been the bright spot on their team. For the Packers, their defense continues to play well. Jordan Love didn't play great against Minnesota, but did good enough to win. In this game, it's still unclear whether or not they will have Josh Jacobs back from his knee injury. But if they don't have Jacobs, Emmanuel Wilson is absolutely capable of stepping in and playing well. He had a very good game against Minnesota, which Minnesota is a very good defense. The Lions defense has struggled this season. They are down, they're hurting. Like in this game, I actually think the Green Bay Packers will get the victory. It's a game that I think could be fairly close, as the Lions offense is very good, but I trust this Green Bay Packers defense to get after Jared Goff, to hopefully try to slow down Jahmyr Gibbs. And this Green Bay Packers offense can definitely run the ball with Emmanuel Wilson. I think Jordan Love should have a pretty good game. I believe we have started Toyotathon, which is when Jordan Love just turns into this absolute mythical creature of a football player that is just fantastic for some reason. So I do think the Green Bay Packers, with their defense and how good they have kind of looked and how much the Lions have struggled this season, I think the Green Bay Packers get the victory here over the Detroit Lions. Now, moving on, your next game on Thanksgiving, you have the Kansas City Chiefs, who are 6-5, coming off their own overtime victory against the Indianapolis Colts, take on the Dallas Cowboys, who are 5-1, coming off of a comeback victory over the Philadelphia Eagles. Both these teams have pretty good defenses. The Cowboys' defense has actually gotten better over the past few weeks since getting Quinnen Williams in their trade and Logan Wilson in trades and just getting players back healthy. For the Chiefs, they probably might be without Isaiah Pacheco again. Kareem Hunt actually had a pretty good game against Indianapolis, having over 100 yards. But their starting right tackle, Trey Smith, is out with an ankle sprain. He's not going to play in this game. He's dealing with a high and low ankle sprain, so that'll really hamper their offensive line. This is a game that I think the Chiefs get the victory here. I think that the Cowboys' run defense is fantastic. It's gotten a lot better over the past couple weeks, but the Chiefs' run game isn't really the strength of their team anyway. It has been Patrick Mahomes. It has been their pass game. I think they can really get it going against this Cowboys defense. I think this Chiefs defense should be good enough to kind of pressure Dak Prescott a little bit and hopefully slow down these receivers and CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, who have been having very good seasons, especially George Pickens. But Kansas City, again, with their back up against the wall, needing to get victories, I think Kansas City wins this ball game. Now, your final game for Thanksgiving, your night game, you have an AFC North battle as the Cincinnati Bengals, who are 3-8, coming off of a loss to the New England Patriots, take on the Baltimore Ravens, who are 6-5, coming off of a pretty ugly victory over the New York Jets. Both these teams got played in very ugly games this past week. For the Bengals, they should finally be getting Joe Burrow back for this game. They'll get Jamar Chase back from his suspension, but will be without T. Higgins as he's out with a concussion. For the Ravens, they're a team that their defense has looked very good the past few weeks. Their offense has had it struggled. They struggled against the Jets. But I think this is a game that could be a shootout. The two games they played last year were absolute shootouts. Neither defense really wanted to show up. Could be a case like that again this year. But whether it's a shootout or they can keep it a low-scoring game, I do think the Ravens can get the victory. They should be able to run on this Bengals defense. Defensively, the Ravens have been playing well, and without T. Higgins, if you can focus on Ja'Marr Chase and take him out of the equation a little bit, that does hamper this Bengals offense quite a bit. So I do think that the Baltimore Ravens get the victory over the Cincinnati Bengals. Now moving on, you have a Friday game, you have a Black Friday game between the Chicago Bears, who are 8-3, coming off of a victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers, taking on the Philadelphia Eagles, who are also 8-3, coming off of a loss to the Dallas Cowboys. For the Bears, their offense has played pretty well, but their defense has had its struggles. For the Eagles, it's kind of been the opposite. Their defense is very, very good, but their offense has had its struggles. There's a team at a 21-point lead over the Dallas Cowboys this past week and just could not put them away. This is a game that I think could be pretty close. I think the Bears offense will struggle against this Eagles defense. I don't know how this Eagles offense will look against this Bears defense. I think they can do good enough against this struggling Bears defense. So I do think that the Philadelphia Eagles will get the victory in what could be a very ugly game, as one team has a good offense and not so good defense, and the other team has a not so good offense with a very good defense. So I'll take the team with the very good defense in the Philadelphia Eagles to get the victory. Moving on to your Sunday games. First up, you have the San Francisco 49ers, who are 8-4, coming off of a victory over the Carolina Panthers on Monday Night Football. In a game which their offense looked very sloppy and Brock Purdy threw 3 interceptions. Taking on the Cleveland Browns, who are 3-8, coming off a victory over the Vegas Raiders. In a game in which Shedeur Sanders made his first start and he played okay. He had a little over 200 yards with 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And Quinshon Judkins had a couple rushing touchdowns for them. Myles Garrett and their defense had 10 sacks total on the Raiders this past week. So their defense is playing tremendous football. This is a game that I think will actually be very close because the Browns defense has the ability to keep them in football games. But I think the 49ers win this game. George Kittle's been playing very good since Brock Purdy has come back from injury. Brock Purdy has struggled. Christian McCaffrey plays very good. If they can keep getting Christian McCaffrey involved in this offense, then they should win this football game. I think their defense is good enough, though they have a lot of injuries themselves. Their defense is good enough to contain this kind of lackluster Browns offense. I know Shedeur Sanders gave this offense a bit of a spark, but I still don't think it's enough. I think the 49ers get the victory here. Moving on from that, you have the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are 7-4, coming off of an overtime victory over the Arizona Cardinals, taking on the Tennessee Titans, who are 1-10, coming off of a loss to the Seahawks. The Titans are a team that, although they've been losing, they have been able to keep games close the past few weeks. Got down by a lot early against Seattle and tried to make a comeback, but ultimately fell short. The Jaguars are a team that is very inconsistent. Trevor Lawrence is... The offense goes as well as he does. He had 3 touchdowns this past week, but he had 3 interceptions, which really cost them, or almost cost them the game. I still think the Jaguars get the victory here because I think they should be able to run the ball well against this Tennessee Titans defense. I think Travis Etienne and Bashal Tutin should be able to play well against this defense. I think that the Jaguars defense should be able to slow down this struggling Titans offense. Although this offense looked better against the Seahawks defense than it has most of the season. But I think the Jaguars get the victory over Tennessee. Moving on, you have the Houston Texans, who are 6-5, coming off of a victory last Thursday night over the Buffalo Bills, taking on the Indianapolis Colts, who are 8-3, coming off of their overtime loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. The Texans are a team that their defense has looked tremendous their offense has actually looked okay and been doing enough to win games with Davis Mills at quarterback. Still unclear right now whether or not it will be Davis Mills or C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud is still recovering from a concussion. For the Colts, their running game really struggled against Kansas City. Their team just did not look as good as it has been in recent weeks. This is a game that I think will be very, very close. But I think the Houston Texans, off of the strength of their defense, get the victory over the Indianapolis Colts. I think they pressured Josh Allen tremendously and sacked him, I think, 8 times. I think they can do very similar to Daniel Jones, make him make some mistakes. The thing that the Bills were able to do well against the Texans, which is what I believe will keep the Colts competitive in this game, is they were able to run on the Texans defense. I think Jonathan Taylor could have a very good game, but I think that the Texans could play a very good bend but don't break defense of not letting up a lot of touchdowns and making the Colts have to settle for field goals or just disrupt them enough to cause turnovers and just not give up touchdowns. And this Texans offense, I think, will do good enough against this Colts defense that has been without DeForest Buckner, their best defensive lineman, for a few weeks now. I do think this Texans team will get the victory. Next up, you have the New Orleans Saints, who are 2-9, coming off of the loss to the Atlanta Falcons, taking on the Miami Dolphins, who are 4-7, coming off a bye week. Before that, they had an overtime victory over the Washington Commanders. For New Orleans, they might possibly be without Alvin Kamara, their starting running back, which does not bode well for their offense, which has already been struggling, and having a rookie quarterback in Tyler Shough starting. For the Dolphins, they've actually been able to have a bit of a spark their past few games. Their offense has been looking better. Their defense has been looking pretty good. Their defense actually played pretty well against Washington a couple weeks ago. So although both these teams have been struggling and have not looked that good this season, I'm going to go with the Miami Dolphins to get the victory over the New Orleans Saints. Moving on from that, you have the Atlanta Falcons, who are 4-7, coming off of their victory over the Saints, taking on the New York Jets, who are 2-9, coming off of their loss to the Baltimore Ravens. This is another game where both teams have kind of been struggling. Atlanta, again, Kirk Cousins is their quarterback going forward. Don't know if Drake London is going to play. Even without Drake London, Darnell Mooney had a pretty good game. I trust the run game of the Atlanta Falcons with Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier against this Jets defense. For the Jets, Tyrod Taylor looked better than Justin Fields, but that doesn't really take a whole lot. John Mechie had a very good game against Baltimore. It's a game that I think could be a bit of a slugfest, kind of low scoring, but I think that the Atlanta Falcons will get the victory over the New York Jets. Moving on from that, you have the Arizona Cardinals, who are 3-8, coming off of their overtime loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars, taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are 6-5, coming off of, getting slaughtered by the Los Angeles Rams on Sunday Night Football. A game in which Baker Mayfield got knocked out of the game with a AC joint sprain in his non-throwing shoulder. It's unclear whether or not he will play this week. They should hopefully get Bucky Irving back, which would be a huge boost for their run game. For the Cardinals, Jacoby Brissett continues to play well. Their defense continues to have its struggles, so they did get a few interceptions from Trevor Lawrence last week. This is a game that if Baker Mayfield were fully healthy, I would have believed that the Buccaneers would win this no issue. It is closer now than I thought before Baker Mayfield's injury. If Baker can't go, they do have Teddy Bridgewater, who is a very capable backup. He can play well when needed. I'm still going to go with Tampa Bay to win this game because I think that Bucky Irving coming back will be a big boost to their run game, and that could be a difference maker for them. I think their defense can still play pretty well against this Cardinals offense. So give me the Buccaneers to win what could be a very close game. Next up, you have the LA Rams, who are 9-2, coming off of their slaughtering of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, taking on the Carolina Panthers, who are 6-6, coming off their loss to the 49ers on Monday Night Football. The Rams have looked like the best team in football as to this point. Their defense has been playing tremendous. Matthew Stafford playing at an MVP level. Devontae Adams is playing very well. Puka Nacua has been playing very well. So all around, LA has looked like a very top-tier football team. For the Panthers, they have been very back and forth. There are times that Bryce Young and this offense will look amazing, and their defense will look very good. Their defense, I think, has been playing very well. They might struggle against this very high-powered offense of the Rams. And their offense, you don't know which version of their offense you're going to get, but I can guarantee you're going to get a top-tier defense from the LA Rams. So I do think the Rams get the victory here. I think their defense should be able to get after Bryce Young. I think they can slow down Rico Dowdle with how good their defense has been against the run this season. I don't think Carolina will really be able to pass that well, as this Rams secondary has performed very well as well. Give me the Rams to get the victory over the Carolina Panthers. Next up, you have the Minnesota Vikings, who are 4-7, coming off of their loss to the Green Bay Packers, in which they didn't really look all that competitive. Taking on the Seattle Seahawks, who are 8-3, coming off of their victory over the Tennessee Titans, in which they got up to a big lead and then allowed the Titans to try and come back, but ultimately got away with the victory. This is what could be considered a bit of a Sam Darnold revenge game, as he was the Vikings quarterback last season, led them to 14 wins, and they let him walk. And for Minnesota, they most could be without J.J. McCarthy, as he is in concussion protocol right now. So they could be down to an undrafted free agent rookie quarterback. I think that bodes very well for the Seattle defense. I think Seattle gets the victory here. I think they get after whoever Vikings have a quarterback. I think this Seattle offense behind Sam Darnold and Jackson Smith and Jigba will play very well. JSN is having a tremendous season. He's on pace for just over 2,000 yards receiving, which would break the NFL record. So he's really been elevating this Seahawks offense. So I do think the Seattle Seahawks get the victory over the Minnesota Vikings. Next up, you have the Buffalo Bills, who are 7-4, coming off of their loss to the Houston Texans, taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are 6-5, coming off of their loss to the Chicago Bears. In that game against the Bears, Aaron Rodgers did not play with his fractured left wrist. Unclear whether or not he will be able to play this week, or if it will be once again Mason Rudolph. The Buffalo Bills, their defense has been very banged up. They've had a ton of injuries on their defense. Offensively, the teams have been able to exploit their weakness on offense of not having a true number one wide receiver, and if they can kind of slow down Josh Allen and slow down that run game, then that's kind of the blueprint for how to beat the Bills. The Steelers have a very good defense, and hopefully try to pressure Josh Allen, but I don't know how this Steelers offense is going to look. I can't really trust them. So I do think the Buffalo Bills get the victory. This is another one that could be a very low-scoring kind of back-and-forth game, but I think the Buffalo Bills can come away with the win. Next up, you have an AFC West showdown, as the Vegas Raiders, who are 2-9, coming off of their loss to the Cleveland Browns, take on the LA Chargers, who are 7-4. They're coming off a bye week. Before that, they were getting decimated by the Jacksonville Jaguars, not able to do much of anything offensively or stop the Jaguars defensively. The Chargers in this game could get Omarion Hampton back, who has missed the past 6 games with his ankle injury. Even if they don't get him back, I think the Chargers get the victory here. I cannot trust the Raiders at all. The Raiders might be without Ashton Jeanty in this game, as he suffered, I believe, some sort of leg injury against the Browns and did not return to that game in the fourth quarter. Now, I don't know if it was because of how severe the injury was or just that the game was out of hand at that point, so there was no point in putting them in. The Raiders also just recently fired offensive coordinator Chip Kelly as he did not a very good job with his offense. The offense has had its struggles all season. I think the Chargers will be able to, pressure Geno Smith, probably make some mistakes. I think this offense, led by Justin Herbert, even if Ryan Hampton can't go, can put up points against this Raiders defense. I think the Chargers get the victory here. Moving on to Sunday Night Football, you have the Denver Broncos, who are 9-2, coming off their bye week. Before that, coming off a victory over the Kansas City Chiefs, taking on the Washington Commanders, who are 3-8. Also coming off the bye week before that, coming off a big loss to the Miami Dolphins. For the Commanders, again, looks like they will be without Jayden Daniels, as he is still recovering from his elbow injury. Could maybe get Terry McLaurin back for this game. For the Broncos, their hope is that they will have Pat Surtain, their number one cornerback for this game. But even if they don't have him back, their defense can still play very well. I think their defense will be able to pressure Marcus Mariota, as they've been able to pressure teams all season. I think their defense will really be able to shut down this kind of lackluster run offense of the Commanders. I think that Bo Nix should have a pretty good game against this Commanders defense, which has been having its struggles. So I do think the Denver Broncos will get the victory. I think defensively they will be too much for the Commanders offense. I think that this Broncos offense should be able to perform well and put points up against this Commanders defense. So give me the Broncos to win here. Now, finally, on Monday Night Football, you have the New York Giants, who are 2-10, coming off of their overtime loss to the Detroit Lions and being the first team eliminated from playoff contention this season, taking on the New England Patriots, who are 10-2, coming off of their very close, ugly victory over the Cincinnati Bengals. In that Bengals game, both starting left guard Jared Wilson went out with an ankle injury and looks like he could miss a handful of weeks. And left tackle Will Campbell went out with a knee injury. He has an MCL sprain, and he looks like he'll miss a few weeks. So looks like it'll be Ben Brown filling in at left guard, and Fedarian Lowe filling in at left tackle. Anybody that's a Patriots fan that has watched Fedarian Lowe in the past, he is not a very good offensive tackle. So I am terrified right now of this Giants pass rush against that Patriots beat up offensive line. It's unclear whether or not Jackson Dart will start in this game, or if it will be Jameis Winston, who has played very entertaining football in his 2 starts against for the Giants, although that has not equated to getting wins. This is another one that could be very close, as the Giants have a very good defense, as do the Patriots have a very good defense in their own right. I think it'll come down to how each offense performs. And I do think the Patriots will get the victory. I just trust Drake May's ability to, even if being rushed, move around in the pocket, find throwing lanes, be able to make big plays. I think that TreVeyon Henderson still has the ability to bust big plays in the run game, hopefully similar to how Jahmyr Gibbs did for the Lions. But I do think the Patriots will get the victory in what could be a close, maybe relatively low-scoring game, as it is 2 very good defenses taking on 2 pretty banged-up offenses. But give me the Patriots to win this. Let me know in the comments who you guys have winning this week. Any games that you're kind of excited for. Me, I'm really excited for the Thanksgiving game of the Packers and the Lions. They're 2 top teams, and they're 2 teams fighting for their division right now. And then, obviously, always excited for the Patriots, but we'll see how they do against the Giants. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Till next time. See you.